year after year. Those are the golf courses, those are the municipal golf courses that are getting shut down, okay? Achieve maintenance sustainability. Renew and improve the golf experience to attract a broader audience. We're seeing a big difference between local golfers and people that are either coming to the convention center, coming to the hotels, spending vacations here. When they want to play golf, they want to play a higher end golf course. And you're in a very unique situation here at Jekyll Island. Although it is a public golf course, it's also a resort course. So you're kind of in between two things. What it is not is a municipal golf course, okay? Incorporate successful trends that we're seeing in the golf industry. We're seeing a number of successful trends, particularly 9-hole short courses, par 3 courses, and I know throughout this process, just time and time again, I talk with Jones, have you heard about this? Have you heard about the Cradle at Pinehurst? You know, they're pumping rounds, $50 a day, 9-hole par 3 golf course, you play all day. You know, there's music in the trees, they're playing music, they have food trucks. It's crazy, but it's another amenity. You're starting to pull in younger golfers. You're starting to pull in people that otherwise might be intimidated to go on a bigger golf course. So these are trends that we're seeing time and time again, and they've really popped up in probably the last 2 to 3 years that are becoming so successful for both private and public clubs. Build no housing on the golf course. You have a beautiful golf course here. It's what we call a core golf course, okay? When we say core golf course, there's no houses or hotels or anything right on the golf course. So again, like I said, not only can you go out, play a sport, enjoy nature, and all your senses, you know, you utilize all your senses. It's a beautiful thing, and we don't want to take that away. You know, that's a very special thing that you have here. Maintain limited development, be low density. There is limited development on the master plan, okay? You've got to pay for it one way or another, and that seems to be the most logical way as we're going through this process, but it's low density. It's all within, you know, people have told me you can't say 65-35, but we know that we have lines that are drawn. This can be development, this can't be development. But again, I will remind you, we are putting a lot of conservation back that you currently don't have. You're going to have to create partnerships. You're going to have to maximize golf marketing opportunities. Again, we've dealt with Ben on wildlife corridors. Utilize the land effectively. I feel like we've really used the land effectively with a lot of different elements that we've incorporated in the master plan. There is the opportunity possibly for some wetland restoration potential. Diversifying outdoor recreation and educational opportunities. Introduction of green spaces. There could be the possibility of maybe some limited retail. That has not been determined. And then we need to look at overall cost estimates. So the master plan components, although we are looking largely at the big picture, high level, down, not into a tremendous amount of detail, but they will be addressed in various ways through RFPs, budget, state funding, or partnerships. So we've done a number of preliminary plans. We've had some very interesting responses to those plans. I won't read all the quotes. I think to date we've had over 150 responses. They're kind of all over the board. Keep golf affordable. If rates increase, we would lose play because Jekyll Island is cheaper than most surrounding golf courses. If you want to be known as that, that's fine. Make no changes. The golf courses are in good shape for what they cost. Nothing should be changed on Jekyll Island. We don't need to destroy it for rich golfers and developers. I think that one was really interesting, actually. Changes are needed. Create a higher quality golf development. Market the golf course. Limited or no development. Additional recreational opportunities. Secure state funding for the project. And at one point, we also talked about explore the opportunity to relocate the fire station. So we look at all those. We receive all the responses that everybody sends on a regular basis. They come to us. We go over every single one of them. We read them. Again, some of them are very interesting. Some of them have nothing to do with the master plan. All right? But I'm encouraged because at least people are listening. At least people have an opinion. Your opinion is valuable. So we come to, what is the recommended golf master plan? Well, we have a lot of components in this plan, and we're going to break this down in each area, and we'll start with what opportunities this master plan presents. There is a combination of the Dunes course and the front nine of Oleander. I will say in the RFI, which was done, I think, 3 or 4 years ago now, that there were a number of golf course architects that responded, and I'm going from memory here, but when I talk about a golf course architect, I know when we responded, we actually had provided some other routing options and some ideas to consider. Obviously, combining these two was one of the ideas. One reason is there's never been any question of Great Dunes needs to remain, but we need to bring it back to life, okay? One of the issues, I know speaking with Spencer very early on, was basically the cost just to operate the satellite clubhouse with carts, et cetera, can be anywhere from $70,000 to $100,000 a year. Well, if we run it out of one clubhouse, which is the main clubhouse, that's a substantial savings right away, okay? And we'll kind of get into, I know there's been some questions about, well, if you combine them, it's going to be disjointed. And I'm going to show you some photographs. It won't be, trust me. We know what we're doing. This is what we do on a regular basis. There is a way to do it, and I guarantee you will have people coming here to play this golf course because it's going to be a classic golf course. Some improvements on Pine Lakes. A 9-hole par 3 course, which would be a walkable 9-hole par 3 course. It's not necessarily a big 9-hole loop. Indian Mound golf course adjustments, we're going to go through that. There's a couple different options there beyond what we're calling out on our master plan. New practice area golf instruction center. Again, people have said, well, we really don't care about the practice area. Well, one no-no is when you design a golf course, you never have a practice area that's facing east or west. Because if it's facing east, you're going to have the rising sun in your face. If it's facing west, you're going to have the setting sun in your face. So we would create a new practice area and golf instruction center. We would actually repurpose the existing clubhouse. The pro shop would remain where it is. I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but originally the bottom of that clubhouse was actually cart storage, and it had been modified to what it is today. So what we would like to see is instead of the carts being parked in the barns in the back, they're actually right up underneath the clubhouse. And then there's the option, the upstairs, and when I say upstairs, I'm saying what's under air as well as the patio area could possibly be repurposed as a fitness center. We would like to see an enhancement of Captain Wiley Road. I mean, at the end of the day, you drive by and just have to look and see golf is on my right. That looks like a clubhouse, but there's really no statement that, hey, we're here. So Alex will go over some ideas that we've had for enhancing that. A boutique lodge and villa, which would be low density, which would go where the current practice area is. That way you could utilize the same parking area. Interestingly enough, it's probably been a year ago when we walked down and saw the amphitheater, and it was amazing. It was like, wow, what happened here? And I think in the Jekyll Island Master Plan, they actually call out the possibility of kind of bringing that back, which would be a great tie-in to that whole area. Create 2 islands for a bird rookery, and the rookery is basically, if you were at the amphitheater looking behind the stage, there are actually already some birds back in that area, but the island gives them a sense of protection, okay? And then what we would want to see is a 100-foot buffer around that rookery that could not have trails. You don't want to build anything on it. It's basically a setback to help protect those birds. And then lastly, a assisted living facility, which would be low density. I keep mentioning Ben's name, so I guess you guys are picking up that Ben's doing pretty good here. We've talked about a wildlife corridor, which is very important. Wildlife is very important on Jekyll Island. And there's some areas that he feels pretty passionate about that we need to open up. So we've implemented a wildlife corridor, expanded trail system. Again, there could be salt marsh, conservation expansion, natural grasslands establishment, park passive recreation, croquet courts. You know, I look at the croquet courts they currently play on, and they could be greatly improved. Croquet is a game that is just really taking off, and we really think there's a lot of opportunity there. And then as well, a nature amenity and community pavilion that would also could potentially have a conservation area and an education center. So I think people were getting confused when we were doing our presentations because we were including the initial plans that we did, and Jekyll Island Authority allowed us the freedom to just go at it. What do you see? You have all this information. Show us what you would do without looking over our shoulder. So we created a number of plans. In this, you'll see Concept A, Concept B, C, D, and then the master plan. The master plan is where we are currently at. This is a plan I'm referencing today. The issue became is people, even though I think this is our 4th public meeting, kept looking at these initial plans, and what we were trying to do is show you how the design process takes place. You know, you've got to start somewhere. So you start producing what other concepts, what ideas can we have? And again, there's a lot of this information that is totally being misconstrued. I've seen comments where people like, if you look at Concept A, 60 acres of development. Are you kidding me? Well, no, it was just a preliminary plan. You know, we were just putting ideas out there. And then we look at these plans and we go to Jekyll Island and we go, what's important? What do you guys want to do? And then it's like putting a puzzle together. You take all these plans, you take all these pieces, and you generate one main plan, the plan that we'll look at in a moment. But a couple things that I think are really important to point out here. So the existing golf course right now combines about 480 acres. The current plan, it would combine 367 acres, so you've got a reduction, okay? That means a reduction of turf. That means a savings on irrigation water. So you have a reduction of the area that you're maintaining. Development opportunity. We have 31.3 acres that could potentially be developed, okay? Not 60 acres. We have 31.3. Conservation and recreation. 81.7 acres are going back to conservation and recreation area. That's 81 acres that you don't have that are going back. So again, you go down, clubhouse location, doesn't have a par 3. What's the total number of golf holes? You currently have 63. The plan we're looking at today has 54, but I will say that 54 holes includes the 9-hole par 3. Okay? So what are the components of the master plan? We're going to break these down and look at these a little more in detail. So the golf courses. And I'll point these in case everybody, just so they can see. There's your new practice area. This is the front 9 of Oleander. This is the Dunes course. That's your new 18-hole classic golf course right there. Pine Lakes stays as it is. That's Pine Lakes. Okay. The difference you're going to find out here is what did we do with Indian Mound. This right here is your par 3 course for Indian Mound. Okay? This are your existing, basically back 9 holes, a little bit of a combination of Indian Mound. Okay? So you have a 9-hole regulation golf course. Okay? You have a par 3 course, you have Pine Lakes, and you have the new Dunes course. That's 54 holes of golf. And you have a new practice area, larger tees, chipping area, putting course, and a golf instruction center. Okay? So now, I'd like to turn this over to Alex, and she's going to talk a little bit about the conservation and the development areas.
So you can see the areas in blue on the screen are the areas we're proposing for conservation. On the north of the site, that is what is that one? That's a 30-acre space for conservation and recreation, and we're proposing that there would be boardwalks, trails, bird watching opportunities, wildlife platforms, things for people to engage with the conservation. And in addition to it being wildlife habitat and a conservation area. Having these areas enhances the linkages to the maritime forests, north of Captain Wiley and south of Shell Road. As you see on the south side of the plan, that red arrow, that would be a wildlife corridor to give the wildlife a clear path from the south side of the island all the way up to the north side. That would be totally in undeveloped areas or newly conserved areas. We also have a plan to restore right here some saltwater marsh habitat at the south side of that existing pond. The salt marsh expansion. As Troy mentioned earlier, the bird rookery near the amphitheater right here creates another island to have water around the island, so the birds are a little bit safer from predators, and also have the 100-foot buffer around them for added protection and privacy. Having these conservation areas allows for diversified habitat, and as I mentioned earlier, have expanded recreation areas. And now to the development areas. This is 31.3 total acres of developable area. We have 4 areas proposed. This first one down here is 5 acres, and that one is not very defined right now, an area under study, but we're thinking it could possibly be limited retail, maybe possibly a restaurant or a market, and again, that would be low density development there in that area. Moving north to this one, that is the retirement facility, senior living, assisted living. And then moving north again, we have a potential golf lodge here where the currently west-facing driving range is. And these 3 areas, in our earlier plans, as Troy mentioned, some of our plans had up to 60 acres of development. And those plans included some development on the north side of the road against this existing neighborhood. When we hear all the comments, we don't want so much development, we took all this to heart, looked at where development could be that is smart. So we decided to leave these 3 areas here and not try and encroach on existing neighborhoods and leave those neighborhoods having the privacy they already have without having to add on to them. Putting those areas where they are also utilizes the existing infrastructure you have in place. There's roads through those areas already. They're easily accessible. You're not having to build new roads to get to these areas. Plus, it has the connection to the historic district, and then that one along Shell Road. It's between the beach and the historic district. So it's places that people travel already that we're just proposing the development, so we're not infringing on uses that are already existing. As Troy mentioned earlier, you know, we have 480 acres of golf right currently, and this is 31.3 acres of development that we're proposing. It's a 2.6 to 1 ratio of the conservation areas that are proposed to the development areas that are proposed. I think that's all. Anything you'd like to add, Troy? Oh, okay. I forgot this one up here. Sorry, this one is not purple up here. This one is turquoise. That is proposed that up there since we had the conservation area. Yeah. We had that a different color for development because it would be like a birding education center. So to have those facilities, you would have to develop some kind of area for that. So that's kind of a hybrid of development and conservation, but we said, okay, those 5 acres, we'll count them as development. So, I mean, if you didn't count those 5, then you're absolutely right. You're 5 less. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Alex. So, let's review the master plan advantage. The advantage of this master plan is you created exciting classic golf course. You improve Pine Lakes Golf Course. Indian Mound becomes a 9-hole golf course. You create a new 9-hole par 3 course that's walkable. You increase your conservation areas by 81.7 acres. You repurpose your existing clubhouse into the pro shop, cart storage, possibly fitness center upstairs. You develop a new practice facility that includes a golf instruction center. You design a new boutique golf lodge with a grill room, and you construct a low-density assisted living facility for those to enjoy Jekyll Island. So what's the phasing? Our proposed phasing would be, and this is on the golf side, first thing we would want to do is restore the Great Dunes Golf Course and modify the front 9 of Oleander to create a new 18-hole classic style course that can be operated from one centralized location. Construct a new practice area, and then at that point you basically would have 36 holes open for play during phase 1, possibly 45 because you might be able to utilize some of the back 9 for Oleander Golf Course for a period of time. So you would have 36 holes open for play and the current practice area. Phase 2, redesign Pine Lakes Golf Course or improve it. Again, you would have 36 holes open for play during phase 2, including your new practice area. Phase 3, our proposal would be option A, which is depicted on the master plan. Redesign 9 holes of Indian Mound Golf Course and construct a 9-hole par 3 course. You would still have 36 holes open for play during phase 3. Now there is another option. The other option, and this all depends on where's golf at the point that we've gone through phase 1 and phase 2. Are the numbers going to go up? Are the numbers going to go down? So this is where you have the freedom to decide which is best for Jekyll Island. So if your numbers are going down, you could design the 9-hole par 3, which again we think is an opportunity that you're missing for a number of reasons. You know, introducing people to the game. Older people sometimes can't get through 18 holes, and at least it allows them to continue to enjoy the game of golf. But But we also think there's a missed financial opportunity you could have, however you want to price this. For younger people that come, they're learning the game or just want to go outside and enjoy golf with their parents, their brothers, etc. And then at that point, you could just leave the back nine of Indian Mound the way it is. And option C, if your numbers are just out of the roof and you have to have 18 holes, is you just redesign Indian Mound Golf Course and you don't have the 9-hole par 3 option anymore. So those are the phases that we're proposing. So I kind of wanted to go in a little more detail on the golf. So the Great Dunes concept. This is what we see more in the area where the current Great Dunes Golf Course is. And again, we have constantly heard from people that, well, it's disjointed if you join it with oleander. It's not if you design it right. And so some of the elements I want you to notice are the larger open waste areas, the grass islands within those, just the overall look in the field. This is really the same look and feel, but the difference is you have trees, which is what you have on the Oleander Golf Course right now. So you still can get that same look and feel. It's all how you design it. You can't look at what is there today because we're not talking about doing what's there today. We're talking about changing it. So this is how you can combine those two golf courses and get that same look and feel. The Pine Lakes concept, again, what this shows is turf reduction. I know that Aaron and I have talked about this in a number of occasions. There's a lot of areas on Pine Lakes, and some of you have heard me mention this before, where you get on a tee complex and you look to your left and Aaron's having to maintain 30 yards of turf, 40 yards of turf to the left of the tee complex. But I'm playing this way, but all my turf's over here. You're wasting time, you're wasting money maintaining that. So if you look at particularly, see, this picture here, well, there's my tee. I don't need to maintain this. I can change this and start introducing grasses, plants indigenous to this area. You get a total look and different feel of golf course than you did on the previous page. Same thing was introducing more native grasses in your lower areas or more waste areas or more indigenous plants. You're creating a totally different golf course. And when you have multiple golf courses, it's all about variety. So again, these are just other examples of what we envision for Pine Lakes. Par 3 golf course. It doesn't need to be just total turf. It's going to be walkable. Okay? There's not cart paths. We don't see cart paths at the Par 3 golf course. Again, I'm using examples where we've seen this just being so successful, and we really feel like it's a missed opportunity that could be very advantageous. And really, there's, if I recall correctly, there's really nothing like this within the surrounding area. It'd be very unique to Jekyll Island. And Jekyll Island's a unique place to begin with. So why not add something to it? I visualize, and it doesn't mean it has to be this way. Obviously, we would want input. But the Indian Mound 9-hole concept to be possibly a simpler golf course. You know, right now there's big grandiose bunkers. I see it as maybe being something simpler. And again, maybe the person's getting off work and they just have a short amount of time and they want to just go out and play 9 holes. You know, maybe somebody can't get around an 18-hole golf course and they still don't want to give up golf. You know, so there's a lot of advantages to kind of doing something that's shorter, but see how it blends into the environment? And that's what Jekyll Island is about. So this is what everybody's been waiting for right here, and that's cost estimates, right? And we've explained to everybody that you can't affix a cost estimate until we know the direction we're going, all right? So what we did was we did 2 things. existing golf course estimate, if we were going to go in and leave the golf courses like some people, leave them alone, just make them, update them, okay? You have over 15 miles of cart path on your golf courses. 15 miles at about $40 a linear foot for concrete comes to $3.1 million for an 8-foot wide cart path. Okay? The turf areas that I keep talking about, why is there turf over there? Why is, it's out of play, but you're maintaining it. So you actually have more turf than what we're proposing. But it's in key areas. It's in areas that aren't in play. So what we've done, and again, these are estimates, we've broken down. You have huge bunkers on Indian Mound. None of these bunkers are lined, and what happens today, and again, it's an option, but I know that the way the golf course, when you have this many holes, and honestly, whether it's 45 holes, 36 holes, or 63 holes, we have what we call hard liner in bunkers. And why do we have a hard liner? Because Aaron and his crew have to go out and get these holes ready every morning for everybody to play, and they have to do it as quickly as possible. So it's easier for them to use a mechanical rake. There's nothing wrong with that. The issue becomes when your bunkers aren't lined and there's drainage issues, that mechanical rake starts dragging things out. You start getting contamination of your sand, all right? So they become inconsistent when you play that golf course. And so, again, if we were to take what you have out there with the sizes of bunkers, etc., it's expensive for the hard liners, all right? But it's going to help prolong the longevity of those features, but it's costly. So all in, again, estimate. And the other thing is we have no idea what we're going to get into when you start tearing things up, especially if they were done so long ago. We estimated it's roughly around $21 million to keep your golf courses the way they are, but update them. So the master plan. We estimated each golf course, and we also included the 3 options when I came to Indian Mound, whether you wanted to do option A, option B, option C. So that gives you the flexibility based on what's happening in the golf market at the time this takes place. So you'll look, the last 3 lines, you have estimated budget by phase. So whether it's A, B, C, and then you look at the numbers, they correlate whether you use A, B, C for Indian Mound. And your numbers are $15 to $18 million. Well, why are those numbers so low? We've reduced golf. We've reduced the number of holes you have. You don't have 63 holes anymore, okay? And we would also look at some areas, for instance, the new Oleander Dunes combination, where a classic golf course, we would only do cart pass at tees and greens, and the par 3s would be a continuous cart path. So you're able to eliminate. And let's be honest, I mean, I'm a golfer. I'm sure we have golfers in here. If you don't have to use a cart path, unless you're up by the green or a tee, we don't use a cart path. We go right out into the fairway. Okay? So there's a lot of options. So the program elements. Repurpose is a review, really. Repurpose the existing clubhouse. Again, utilize indoor-outdoor space without constructing a new building. Okay? That's a solid building, trust me. We've had Peacock Lewis up here. We've walked through it. It's very solid. And when we say repurpose it, in essence, we're putting it back how it was originally meant to be, and that is utilizing the bottom area for cart storage. Pro shop would remain. Pro shop's very nice. You have a very nice pro shop. And then obviously the potential to configure the second floor for a fitness center. which could potentially be a lease opportunity. So I want Alex to talk real quick about the enhanced entrance on Captain Wiley Road.
So with this plan, as Troy had mentioned earlier, having everything operate out of only one clubhouse, you'd no longer need the satellite clubhouse down at the south end by the Great Dunes course. So all your traffic for golf is coming to the golf club, to the clubhouse from Captain Wiley Drive. So to have a sense of arrival that you have come to the golf course, we're proposing putting these medians, or these landscape medians and landscape along the sides possibly as well. That way you kind of, we have it shown on the plan in only one spot right now, approaching from the west. I can kind of see it coming on both sides. That way, no matter which way you're coming to the course from, you kind of slow down a little bit. Having the medians kind of causes you to slow down as you go around them. Slow down, look around. Oh, okay, I'm arriving somewhere before you see the sign for the golf club. So you can see in the pictures here, we have a couple different options shown. The top right is actually from Jekyll Island, the picture from Jekyll Island. The one on the top left shows a nice median in the middle and possibly some trees on the side. Just depending on where exactly the medians would fall, that may or may not be a good option. But we just propose having the palms in the middle, possibly some perennials or annuals, ornamentals, native vegetation, just to, like I said, have a sense of arrival. Oh, I'm coming up to something. Oh, here I am. I've arrived at the golf course.
Thank you, Alex. And something else I think that's important on the enhanced entrance is, you have carts going across the street. And so it'd be really nice to see whether it's a paver pattern, et cetera. So when people are coming down that road, typically if you start seeing a different paving pattern, you might realize something's coming up, I better slow down and kind of keep my eyes open left and right because there are carts going across the street. Right now it's basically just a street. So we definitely think that there's potential there to improve that. The golf lodge and villas would be developed commercially. They would be designed from an RFP process. Like I said before, they would be located at the current practice area. They would be Jekyll appropriate coastal design with a restaurant and grill. And then a cluster possibly of low-density villas located at the golf lodge. This could accommodate golfers, tennis. As we said, if we have croquet, there's a lot of croquet events that go on. So I would really think that, again, that there's a big opportunity to utilize those villas. Assisted and independent living facility. Again, it's off Stable Road, which makes sense. It's across the street from the historic district or within close proximity. It would be a low-density development. You would have the main facility with a cluster group of possibly 5 or 6 independent villas. That is our guess. Ultimately, that is something that if this is pursued, that would have to be determined by the Jekyll Island Board, the Jekyll Island Authority, is what that would entail. Public green space, again, 81 acres, which I think is absolutely amazing. Trails, bird watching stations, the rookery. So we're increasing the green space. And the nature amenities, this is the area on the north part of the site that Alex had referenced to. It's a 5-acre. There's a lot of possibilities. We had proposed a community pavilion, bird watching stations, possibly eco lodges, nature conservation education center. So as you move forward, what do we need to do? Well, planning. There needs to be additional planning and design that will be required, obviously at a more detailed level. Ultimately determining what phases. We have our proposed phases on golf, but some of that might be driven by other components within the master plan. Funding, determine what options are available to fund the project and when they would become available. Conservation planning and priorities. consider how to integrate the conservation effort and introduce new elements. Partnerships. If adopted, there would be several elements that would require partners, RFPs. And then define the time frame. You know, the time frame of all components, their phases, and their duration. So with that, number one, I really am grateful for those that could join us today, as well as those that are joining us through the YouTube. And we are opening, I think, the floor for questions, correct, Jones?
Or comments.
Yeah, or comments.
They need to
And if you could come forward to the microphone because we can't hear from back there. Sorry.
let them identify who they are because of the audience.
And when you approach, if you could just say who you are so that we know, it's kind of hard to tell.
I'm Mike Thompson. I'm a Jekyll Island resident. As far as the low-density assisted living, what is the proposed acreage footprint of that, and also the golf lodge?
We don't have building footprints at this point.
I mean, as far as the acreage that will,
The assisted living center, we have 12.3 acres, and the golf lodge is at 9 acres.
okay, and there's no no estimates at this point what the capacity of those units would be, as far as per people?
We said, what, 50 rooms?
I think when you talk, you know, if you talk low density, you're talking around 40 to 50 rooms when you talk low density for the assisted living facility. And one point I would like to make, and that is for the lodge, okay, which is 9 acres. But really, when you back out that 100-foot buffer along the rookery, and actually there would be a buffer along the tennis area, in reality, in regards to what I would consider buildable, you're probably more around the 7-acre range.
The only other thing I had is you've mentioned a couple of times, and we had talked previously about your other recreational opportunities, the croquet courts or croquet lawns. Where would those be located? And at one time you had talked about across the street from the
They're right there.
across the street from the clubhouse, so we could utilize parking and also food and beverage.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
That's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Number one, thank you very much. My name's Mark Webb. I also am an island resident. I live also in Rome, Georgia. I played golf down here for about 50 years, so I'm very familiar with all of the surroundings. And I want to say I'm a real advocate for the plan. I love things that are happening on Jekyll Island. Things are going in the right direction. And what y'all have done looks a lot like what I want to think that I would have done if I were doing some of it. So I think you're doing a great, great job. And I'm excited, and I hope we get going soon. That's kind of what I'm pushing for. I made a few notes, and I would like to ask you a couple of questions and have a comment or two, if I can find it. One thing I didn't see in the proposed reconditioning of the clubhouse was any locker room facility. There's no locker room presently in the clubhouse or any really changing room. So I'm curious about that and whether that will be incorporated into the clubhouse or whether that shifts over to the golf lodge. And I think I saw where it said there was even going to be some dining over in that area. So with the repurposed clubhouse, what is going to be in it essentially is my question. And I'm going to ask my second question, and then I'm going to sit down and let somebody else have at it. I like the idea of gussing up the front on the roadway, but I think another thing that needs to be gussied up is the parking lot, because one thing you can tell when you drive by is there's a parking lot over there, because that's all it is. It's a big old parking lot. It's not like over at Great Dunes where you have some islands and things. And I really think and some of these folks are, and myself included, into pickleball and stuff like that that can kind of be incorporated over there by the tennis facility. And what you're doing with the range, it's having housing over there, and you can sort of all incorporate that and gussy that up. So that's a comment or a question, however you like it. But I could be here for a long time, and I'm just going to step down and let y'all finish up. But I'm an advocate for it, and I hope most other folks are. And I'll tell you another thing, although I'm a resident here, I bring the age way down, even though I'm an old folk. So have at it. Good luck. Let's go.
Well, number one, thank you for your comments. We appreciate that. And in regards to detail and lockers, that was mentioned. But again, until we kind of look at and reassess, obviously our focus is more on big picture at this point. So I think that is something, like I said, that was mentioned before and is a good consideration when you repurpose the existing clubhouse. And then secondly, pickleball, it has gotten huge. It's amazing. I'm actually working another project currently right now. Actually, I was up there yesterday, and we've just are completing a big renovation. And they came to me and said, hey, we want to do some pickleball. And to the point of 2 weeks ago, it was, we want 6 pickleball courts. Where can we put them? And yesterday it was, never mind, we need 8 pickleball courts. The beauty is pickleball doesn't take up a whole lot of space. And I agree with you. I think that there is definitely worth looking at the tennis center, where you can combine those two. It seems to kind of be generally kind of the same crowd, if you will. But there's the possibility of doing something like that. So very good comments, and thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm Maureen Lennon, and I'm also a resident here on Jekyll Island, but I'm relocated from California and actually lived through a little experience out there that I just wanted to share with you. I am fully supportive of where you guys have gotten and following your iterative process over the last several years. I think it's great the way that you have evolved and incorporated comments and changed things, and it's very reflective now of something that feels like Jekyll Island to me. I have absolutely no negative comments at all. I can't wait for it to get started. From the golf perspective, though, our golf course out in California, Oakmont, went through this about 8 years ago. And it had been around, it's a Donald Ross from the 1920s, it had been around forever. And the members, there are a lot of members, and I can't tell you how reluctant and put off they were by the proposed plan, which was basically what we're proposing here. Enhance the natural areas to reduce the turf and the watering, and basically reduce maintenance costs as well, because you're not mowing all of those acres of grass all the time. And as vociferous as everybody was in all of their opposition, of course, when it comes into being, no one would have it any other way. It turns out to make so much sense, not only financially, but also aesthetically. It looks more like Jekyll Island. You have more of the grasses around. You have more sand areas. It's all good. I really appreciated your comment about maybe Indian Mound could be made a little easier. And the reason I'm saying that is the downside sometimes of all of the expanded waste areas and the expanded grass areas is that for the resort golfer like me, who's a medium handicap to a higher handicap, you don't want to set it up so that you've got to clear the grass to get onto the fairway. And given the demographic of the people who play here now, plus whom you might want to attract to come and be our new tourists, I just think that seems like a good idea. And also keep that in mind as you're redesigning the other two. Make sure that it's not out of reach for the non-low handicap golfers.
Thank you very much for your comments. And to your point, we are very cognizant of junior golf, senior golfers, female golfers. We don't want to create a situation where there's forced carries. We understand that. You know, when we talk, funny, quick story. Usually when I go to clients and they're like, I want to, tell me what you're looking for. I want a championship golf course. What's a championship golf course? Oh, it's got to be 74, 76, you know, it's got to be long, you know. Well, what's the percentage of people that play from the back tees? So we realize that you have tournaments here, and we understand that. So we do want it to be challenging from the back, but we want it to be fair from every tee, whoever's playing that tee. So we're very cognizant of carries. What are we asking this person to do? How are we asking this person to carry this shot? So, and I do want to say, and this is in all fairness, I've been able to spend some time with Aaron, and I've said it once, and I can't say it enough. I think he does a phenomenal job with what he has, you know. But to be fair, the deck's kind of stacked against him when he's dealing with the age of so many of the features and the elements on the golf course. I mean, it's that simple. So we want to put not only Aaron and Ben and Jones, we want, and the residents, we want them to put them in a situation where they're going to be successful. Okay? So thank you very much for your comments. It's very nice.
My name is John Donahue, and I live on the island, and I play croquet. Every time I say that, I think I'm like in an AA meeting, you know, because I get strange looks, you know, like big ugly man like you in white. It's not nice. But I want to say a couple of things. One, I want to thank the authority, Jones, for being a little open-minded on what I believe is an emerging opportunity, and you, Mr. Vincent, for probably reading far too many comments and too much detail, but given the time to research and look at it, you know, Pinehurst is a mecca for golf, as you know, and also for croquet, and I've been going there for quite a while to play. It's a great facility. But right next to the croquet courts, they put in that twisted stick par 3. And when they started doing that, I looked at it and I said, what are these people nuts? This is, you know, this is the bastion of classic golf, and they're tearing up greens and fairways to build this little toy course. I got to tell you, next year I went up there, that place rocks. It is busy. There are people on it. The music in the trees we can hear on the croquet lawn, which is like really great. But you're right. It's an opportunity, and those people, that's their busiest activity for people come to that area. So I think you're spot on with that, and appreciate the work. And Jones, to you and the board, thank you on behalf of the Jekyll Island croquet players.
Thank you very much.
One of your statistics early on indicated this average of, I think, 31,000 rounds a year on some type of golf courses, or the average of the U.S. And I'm curious about that. Obviously, here in Georgia, we're all familiar with Augusta National. Augusta National wouldn't have 31,000 rounds a year. And we're also familiar, we have several state-owned and state-run golf courses around the state. You have up in Little Oak Mulgee and McRae. You have one over in Reedsville. You've got Lake Arrowhead up in northwest Georgia or northeast Georgia, and so on. And maybe Jones would know some of the statistics about the average rounds played on the other state park golf courses. But I'm sort of curious as to really what the actual targeted number we would be looking for, because, you know, golfers don't want crowded golf courses. We sort of get, we like our own thing, and we like to be able to move around at 3 hours a round or 3 hours and a half, and we don't want to be playing 5-hour rounds of golf. So it's sort of a statistical issue that I'm bringing up with regard to your 31,000 average rounds per 18-hole golf course. And if you just address that for me very briefly, I appreciate it.
I think real quickly that the main point of that statistic is the number of holes that are currently here at Jekyll Island, and what those statistics are showing when you have 63 holes. It's not just about having 63 holes, but it's about also the cost that it's taken to maintain those 63 holes. And when you look at that, those statistics, in essence, you could, if you went solely by the numbers, you could take 18 holes out of play, right? And the 31,000 rounds, which is provided by the National Golf Foundation, is basically where their minimum line starts. It starts at 31,000 rounds. In regards to what the other state facilities are running through in regards to their numbers, I don't know. But I think that the key takeaway of that is we're lacking a great deal even to get to what's considered the bottom line, as NGF put it, at that 31,000 number, okay? I think, and you bring up a good point, and it's just me, it's just my personal opinion. When you have 63 holes, as you currently do, and you're not getting play, it spoils you guys, because that means your golf courses aren't busy, and that also means that anytime I want to go up, I probably can walk on. I know I'm going to play on one of the golf courses. I don't know if that's probably going to be taken well, but that's just the truth at the end of the day. So there's things where I think working with Spencer, there's a couple things that there's a lot of options, I guess. There's options in regards to fees. There's a lot of options in regards to, hey, I'm local, I'm a member, can we block these tee times for our members only? You know, there's a lot of ways this thing can work. I think right now, Jekyll Island and I think Spencer have kind of been put in a situation where, hey, we're going to take whatever we can take, you know, because we just got to make this thing work. And that's not an ideal situation, and that's one of the reasons that Jones has brought us in to kind of look to where do we need to go with this. So from an operational standpoint, there's a lot of things that can be done. And when I say that, it's, you know, I'm talking about cost, I'm talking about tee times, you know, and even if, for example, I'm not putting words in Spencer, you know, I don't want to make this, it's ultimately his decision, Jekyll Island Authority's decision, but it might be that, hey, look, we're going to block out X amount of tee times every day, maybe in the morning and maybe some in the afternoon. And if our members don't take those tee times, then we're going to sell them. You know, so there's a lot of options on the operational side that you could do. But again, I'll look into the numbers on what the other parks do. But the bottom line is, it's just you have so much golf here, and you're just trying to keep your head above water.
Hey, Troy, I need to comment on that if I can. Okay. Yeah, if I could comment on that discussion just for a second, Mark. I think it's important that we know and that we have an idea from a matrix of what statistically others are doing, which you totally understand. But I think it's important for everyone to understand that, for instance, just because the Georgia Department of Transportation tells us that we can have another 100,000 cars on Beachview Drive, it doesn't mean that that's our goal. So that's real important, I think, for people to leave here and understand. That's the reason that the Jekyll Island Authority Board approved the capacity study, the carrying capacity study, so that we could have some parameters to look at and begin to manage demands. And so I've never heard anyone say, wow, if that's the national average, we sure want to be at least at national average. So I don't think that's in the plans. I think that, though, from what I understand, that we're wanting to be aware of here's why we do have a problem. Now, if the board were to decide they want to continue to subsidize golf at the tune of $500,000 to $600,000 a year from now until eternity, then that's their decision to do as well. But operationally, Aaron, don't walk out. I'm sorry, don't have a heart attack when I say that. Operationally, that becomes difficult. So I just want to be sure everybody understands that there's not a number there that we're like saying we need to reach that number. So.
And Jones, I agree with that. And like I said, I think it's more of, the cost. It becomes a cost issue. And the numbers were basically just putting some things in perspective. So, are there any more questions? If not, I'd kind of like to kind of finish up by reading what the vision statement was. And I know I did this very, very early on, I think in one of our first presentations. But I think it's important to just go over it very quickly. I'm going to read it. The Jekyll Island Golf Master Plan should serve as the blueprint for the future of golf on Jekyll Island. The master plan process and recommendations should not exclude or restrict creative and innovative land use plan ideas for any acreage that may be deemed as excess or successful golf operations, and should include innovative, successful trends that are currently being implemented at golf clubs today. The Jekyll Island board members have shown a readiness to completely examine all land use options. These may include, but not limited to, additional conservation areas, check. Diversified outdoor recreation and educational amenities, check. Public event or community gathering space, check. Golf lodging, check. Assisted living and progressive care facilities, check. Excess acreage for dredge spoil disposal, check. So these were what were set out at the very beginning before we put any pencil to paper. And it doesn't mean things can't change. Obviously there's been comments here where I know that we're going to go back and go, okay, we'll meet with the authority. We think we need to add this in here. So there are components here that can change, all right? But I think from the 10,000 feet level, which is what a master plan is, you have not gotten into any details yet. What we're trying to do is solve a problem here, and we're trying to be creative, yet also be conscious about what Jekyll Island is, what it represents, why people come here, why people live here. Okay? And we're trying to combine that within this footprint that we're working within. Okay? So I think if there's not any other questions.
I just want to remind people of the process, Troy. So following today, well, Troy, first of all, thank you very much, you and your team. And I know there are other members of your team that have worked on this project, but we appreciate y'all being here today. And you just made an understatement. You said some things may change. There will be a lot of things that'll change. I can assure you of that, because this is as you just said, this is the overall master plan. And then when we start getting into RFPs and that process, I can guarantee you there'll be lots of changes. But at least this is the direction. This is what we shoot for. And this forms the basis for hopefully where the board will say we need to go. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting this afternoon, the website is open, so you'll be able to comment, and anyone who is joining us today remotely, they'll be able to comment. That site will be open through September the 2nd, which is a week from today. And the reason it will be closed out then is because of what Troy said. All of these comments are fed to him and his team, and they have to deal with them and look at them and see if there's some tweaking or whatever that needs to be done before the board meeting, which is scheduled for September the 15th. And at that board meeting, they will be making a presentation of their final master plan to the Jekyll Island Authority Board. So that is the process now for finalizing of the master plan, and also for the opportunity for any more comments or questions to be shared. But I really appreciate your taking the time to come today, to share, to listen. I appreciate the fact that many of you have commented on this plan, on this proposed master plan previously. And that means there's a lot of interest. That means you've looked at it. That means that you have explored these maps and these diagrams. And that's very important to this entire process. So thank you, everybody. Stay safe. Have a great evening. Troy, thank you.